Day 157, this is going to be a follow-up, similar message to my yesterday message that was specifically talking about men and masculinity and stepping into carrying burdens and our responsibility to do so as leaders. Now I'm going to talk about a similar message, but it's going to be more towards everyone. I don't know if you've ever asked yourself the question, like, does God really expect me to make a difference? I want to answer that question with a pretty sobering verse in Ezekiel chapter 22, verse 30. In this verse, God says, I looked for someone among them who would build up the wall and stand before me in the gap on behalf of the land, so I would not have to destroy it. But I found no one. God says he was looking for someone to stand in the gap, but he found no one. Think about that. God looked and he searched. He wasn't looking for a perfect man. And if you read before and after verse 30, you'll get a little more context. I'll give a homework assignment there. But he wasn't looking for someone that was perfect. And he wasn't looking for someone rich or famous or powerful. He was simply looking for anyone who would stand in the gap, but he found no one. The verse is pretty heartbreaking, but it's a warning. Because God, I believe, still looks today. He looks for men and women who will step up when walls are broken down. Whether that's in families or communities or churches or in our country. I think that he looks for people who will pray when others give up. People who will lead when others run. Someone who's going to speak the truth even when it's costly. Someone who will live with conviction even if it's unpopular, especially now in this culture that we live in. And the question becomes like, will he find you ready? Will you be ready? There's a quote that I came across that coincides perfectly with this message, but it says, to each there comes in their lifetime a special moment when they are figuratively tapped on the shoulder and invited to do something special. What a tragedy if that moment finds them unprepared or unqualified for the work. So basically there's going to be a moment in time in all of our lives where we are figuratively going to be tapped on the shoulder to do something special, to do something that God's calling us towards. What a tragedy that would be if we were unprepared to answer that call. And I believe for all of us in our lives, that tap is coming. It might come in your home when your kids need guidance. It might come in your marriage when things are breaking. Someone has to fight for it. It might come at work or in a school or in a church or in a cultural moment where silence is easier. But being of conviction and being for God, he's calling you to speak. And I love this, but this is written down here. The time of ease is not when heroes rise. The time of ease is not when heroes rise. It's in the chaos. It's in the crisis. It's in that gap that God was talking about. So I believe that we must be ready. And not like someday, not a day down the road, but we must be ready and prepared now. What's that mean? That means building our faith, and that means staying rooted in the Word. I think we've got to train in righteousness. We've got to live with urgency. As men, we're called to do that. I talked about yesterday, but as people, we're called to be disciplined and obedient. Because when that tap on the shoulder comes, and when you hear that voice of God calling, hey, this is your moment, like stand here, pray here, lead here. You don't have time at that point once you feel that call to then go get ready. It's like the hand on the plow video that we talked about a handful of days ago. Is like God doesn't call us to dabble in discipleship. You have to be ready. Let me say this clearly. God is not waiting for someone else. He's calling you and he's calling me. I say this all the time, but you may feel unqualified, but God doesn't call the qualified. It's not a prerequisite. God simply qualifies the called, and we are called as Christians. So today I would just ask anyone and myself, like, where are the men who will stand in the gap for their families? Where are the women who will stand in the gap for the next generation? And where are the believers in Christ who will carry the burden when no one else will? Because if God were to look at our church and our homes and our hearts, would he find someone to stand in that gap? Or would he say, I found no one? It's tough to hear, but it's a message we need to wrap our minds around and pursue with all we got. Because I want to be a person that he can count on. Not that I'm going to be perfect, I'm far from it, but I want and I strive to be a person that doesn't back down, and one that says, here I am, Lord, send me. I'll stand in the gap. Day 157.